The boxing world is buzzing with rare intensity as debate rages over a potential showdown between Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez, a matchup that on paper looks like a pure clash of philosophies, styles, and mentalities. And the reason opinions are so violently split is because this is not a simple talent versus talent comparison, but a deep chess match wrapped inside a street fight, where every advantage one fighter holds is immediately countered by a danger the other brings, starting with Shakur Stevenson, a fighter many experts consider the most technically complete boxer of his generation, a master of distance, timing, and defensive responsibility, whose ring IQ is often described as surgical, almost unfair, because he doesn't just react to opponents. He anticipates them, dissects patterns, and removes options round by round until fighters look confused, frustrated, and helpless. And this is why so many analysts instinctively lean towards Shakur in this matchup, believing his ability to control space, dictate tempo, and neutralize chaos will eventually drain Teofimo of his explosiveness. But that confidence is exactly what makes this fight dangerous, because Gervonta Tank Davis and others have openly questioned whether Shakur has truly proven himself at 135 pounds, pointing out that while his skills are undeniable, the lightweight division is not forgiving, and dominance at lower weights does not automatically translate when fighters start hitting harder, moving faster, and refusing to be bullied by finesse alone. And that critique matters because Teofimo Lopez is not just another aggressive puncher. He is one of the most psychologically volatile and physically explosive fighters in boxing, a man whose career has been defined by extremes, from moments of brilliance that shook the sport to lapses that left fans confused. But one pattern has remained consistent throughout Teofimo's journey, and that is he becomes most dangerous when people count him out. When expectations drop, when the narrative shifts against him, because that is when he fights with nothing to lose and everything to prove. And history backs this up most clearly in his performance against Vasyl Lomachenko, a fight many believed he would lose on experience and skill alone, only for Teofimo to walk into the ring fearless, disciplined, and ferocious, shutting down one of the greatest technicians of the era with raw confidence, explosive counters, and an unshakable belief in his power. And if that version of Teofimo shows up against Shakur Stevenson, this fight stops being a technical showcase and becomes a genuine danger zone, because while Shakur thrives in structure, Teofimo thrives in disruption, and chaos is not something you can always outthink when it arrives suddenly and violently, which brings us to the heart of this matchup. Control versus chaos, patience versus explosion, calculation versus instinct. And the reason no prediction feels safe is because both men are elite at imposing a preferred reality inside the ring. Shakur wants a slow burn, a methodical breakdown, rounds where he touches without being touched, frustrates his opponent, forces mistakes, and slowly drains confidence until the fight feels unwinnable, while Teofimo wants moments, not minutes, opportunities to detonate, to flip momentum with a single exchange, to remind everyone that all the IQ in the world means nothing if you hesitate for half a second too long. And the lightweight division amplifies this tension because the margins are razor thin, power travels faster, mistakes are punished instantly, and durability is constantly tested, which raises another critical question in this debate. How does Shakur handle true lightweight power from someone as explosive as Teofimo? Because while Shakur has shown composure and toughness, he has not yet faced sustained pressure from a prime, confident, elite-level puncher at 135 who is willing to take risks to land something big. And Teofimo is exactly that kind of threat, a fighter who will eat a clean shot if it means landing a heavier one in return, and that willingness to gamble can disrupt even the most disciplined game plans. Yet on the other side of the argument, critics of Teofimo point out his inconsistency, his tendency to mentally drift in fights, his struggles when opponents refuse to engage on his terms. And this is where Shakur's discipline becomes a nightmare scenario for him, because Shakur does not give you what you want. He gives you what you can handle, and then takes that away too, forcing fighters into a slow psychological breakdown where frustration becomes fatigue and fatigue becomes mistakes. And if Teofimo starts chasing, reaching, loading up, or trying to force moments that aren't there, Shakur's counters, angles, and footwork could quietly rack up rounds and leave Teofimo looking explosive but ineffective, which is why so many scorecards would likely favor Shakur, even in rounds that feel tense or dangerous. And this scoring dynamic adds another layer of complexity, because Teofimo's style often creates dramatic moments that don't always translate cleanly to points, while Shakur's subtle dominance can look less exciting but more effective to judges. especially in high-level fights where clean punching, defense, and ring control are heavily rewarded. But then again, boxing history is filled with nights where the fighter doing better suddenly finds himself staring at the lights because one mistake erased 10 minutes of control, and Teofimo is exactly the kind of fighter capable of producing that moment, especially if Shakur becomes too comfortable or tries to prove a point instead of sticking to his safest path. And this brings us back to why Tank Davis' skepticism resonates with fans, because Tank understands power dynamics better than most. He knows that talent alone doesn't win fights at the highest level. Timing, durability, mentality, and adaptability matter just as much, and Shakur is still writing his story at lightweight, still proving how his skill set translates when the punches are heavy and the margin for error is smaller, while Teofimo, for all his flaws, has already shown he can rise to the occasion on the biggest stage against elite opposition, making this fight not just a stylistic puzzle but a psychological test of belief, patience, and nerve. And when you zoom out, what makes this matchup so compelling is that neither man is wrong for believing he wins. Shakur can look at tape and see openings, patterns, overreactions, and exploitable habits, while Teofimo can look at the same footage and see moments where he can crash through the structure and turn a thinking match into a survival test. And that mutual confidence is what creates danger, because neither fighter is likely to back down, yet neither can afford recklessness. And as the round progresses, the tension would only grow, with every feint, every step, every exchange carrying the potential to shift momentum instantly, making fans, analysts, and fighters alike lean forward in anticipation, knowing that at any moment control could collapse into chaos or chaos could be suffocated by discipline. And that is why this fight resists easy predictions, because it exists in that uncomfortable space where logic and instinct collide, where the right answer depends entirely on which version of each fighter shows up on the night, whether Shakur remains ice-cold and uncompromising for 12 rounds, or whether Teofimo finds that spark that turns doubt into danger. And until that bell rings, all we can say with certainty is that this is not an easy fight for anyone involved, not for the fighters, not for the judges, and not for the fans trying to decide which side of the debate they stand on. Because when smart meets explosive, when control meets chaos, boxing rarely follows the script we expect. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this matchup one of the most fascinating conversations in the sport today. So for the full breakdown, deeper analysis, and everything you need to know about this potential clash, click the link below.